صل على محمد وآل محمد. Again, for the well-being of the community and others, Salat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Finally, for the hastened reappearance of Imam Zaman, you can allow our Salat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان اللعين الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. به نستعين. الحمد لله الذي جعل الحمد مفتاحا لذكره وسببا للمزيد من فضله ودليلا على آلائه وعظمته. ثم الصلاة والسلام على خير خلقه سيدنا ونبينا وحبيب قلوبنا أبي القاسم المصطفى محمد وعلى آله الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين لا سيما بقية الله في الأرضين أرواحنا لهم فداء. أما بعد، فقد قال الله سبحانه وتعالى في كتابه الكريم: بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. فأقم وجهك للدين حنيفا فطرة الله التي فطر الناس عليها لا تبديل لخلق الله ذلك الدين القيم ولكن أكثر الناس لا يعلمون. صدق الله العلي العظيم. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. Inshallah, we will continue and complete our discussion on the seventh universal need of mankind, of a person, which is spirituality, and how to find balance in that spirituality. We begin with verse 30 of Surah Rum, so chapter 30 of the Quran, verse 30. As many of the teachers of Irfan, that they point to this particular verse as one of the verses in the Quran that encourages us to develop ourselves and our spiritual selves, particularly because our nature, innately we are connected to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It is part of our fitrah. But if we become neglectful of that fitrah, we become ignorant of that fitrah, or we pay no attention, become neglectful of that fitrah, then that fitrah will become skewed. And instead of developing ourselves spiritually in a good way, we may go out of balance within our spirituality. And that's one of the things that we want to avoid, is that spiritual imbalance, because it will take us to a point of being spiritually bankrupt. And I'll speak about the spiritual bankruptcy in a few, but just to remind you that what we mentioned yesterday, as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He shows us in this verse that, and by the verses which are similar to it, that Deenul Qayyim of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or that Deenul Hanif, that pure religion, it is founded upon the worship of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, as He says in Surah Bayyinah, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, وَمَا أُمِرُوا إِلَّا لِيَعْبُدَ اللَّهَ مُخْلِصِينَ لَهُ الدِّينَ حُنَفَاءَ وَيُقِيمُوا الصَّلَاةَ وَيُؤْتُوا الزَّكَاةَ وَذَلِكَ الدِّينُ الْقَيِّمَ. So it's based upon worship of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but not any type of worship of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, not any type of devotion to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but that devotion which is sincere, with ikhlas. And of course, if we are those servants of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala who strive to be sincere in our ibadah, beginning with our intention that we are doing our fasting, for example, in this blessed month of Ramadan, which has sped past us, and tonight may be the last night of Ramadan, and tomorrow may be the blessed Eid. But in either case, whatever we begin on in our ibadah, it should be solely for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, not to please anyone else. And if we do it with ikhlas, that we are among those individuals that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala He speaks about in Surah Al-Bayyinah, that we worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, mukhlisina lahuddin, in that fashion, then inshallah we will be among those individuals that are safeguarded from the shaitan, where he says that he will try to deviate mankind. However, there are among those that will not be able to be deviated, illa ibadika minhumul mukhlasin, except for those servants of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala who are mukhlas. But in order to reach that state of being protected, we have to start from making sincere intentions, sincere actions in our ibadah, whether it's our prayers, whether it's our fast, whether it's giving our homes or giving our zakat. Salat. And what is important in order to achieve that ikhlas, or to achieve that state of being protected, then we have to be aware of those pitfalls that Imam Ali he mentions in the first sermon, that we do not pervert or betray or change that trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, our belief and our faith in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. When Allah has asked us that, do we believe? Alastu bi rabbikum wa qalu bala. We should not betray that trust. And if we do, if we begin to forget that, then as Imam Ali, he says that then we overlook the rights of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. فَجَهِلُوا حَقَّهُ. And once we also overlook the rights of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we begin to place other objects and other things as our point of desire. And by doing so, we prepare the grounds for shaitan to begin to also further take us away from the ma'rifat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and take us further away from worshiping of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And once we become far from these things, then yes, our ikhlas is no longer there. We no longer have that protection against shaitan. So in order to go back towards that point of spirituality and connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He sent messengers, as Imam Ali stated, to remind us. The Imams, the Ahlul Bayt alayhim, they are also there to remind us, just like the ulama, the righteous ulama, the urafa, those who are spiritually connected to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as well. They're there to remind us of our fitrah, of tawheed, of nubuwwah, of connecting to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. As I mentioned, that when we think about spirituality, there are two parts of it. Part of it is the theoretical, which is the knowledge of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And in fact, when someone who has studied the books of Irfan, the subject matter of Irfan is ma'rifatullah, is to know Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The language which is used is a little bit more closer to the philosophy versus theology. And this is because that knowledge which is being shared in the books of the Urafa is more based on their experience of connecting to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The other aspect of Irfan is that which is practical and pragmatic. And in the letter, the Irfan Naameh of Imam Khomeini to his daughter Fatima Tabatabai, what we see Imam Khomeini emphasizing is that practical aspect. He says, look, this is if you really want to you know, indulge in irfan and spirituality, he says you don't need all of this terminology. You don't need to know, okay, well, what is this terminology? What is this? This is what one needs is to act. And the best book to act by in order to purify yourselves spiritually, he says, is the Quran. And of course, he alludes to the du'as of the Ahlul Bayt alayhim as well. So if you are looking towards the Quran, if you're looking towards the Quran, if you are reading the Quran, understanding the message from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, from the Quran to us, and also reading the du'as of Ahlul Bayt alayhim wasalam, this is the best books of irfan. Best books of irfan. The Quran, du'as of Ahlul Bayt alayhim wasalam. And both of them will have a practical and pragmatic dimension about it, because you will read the Quran, you're engaging with that communication from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And then on the side of du'as, that you're learning from the ma'asum how to communicate back with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So the objective, at least of practical irfan, is to connect with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to develop one's fitrah, make it strong, that connection that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created between himself and his creation. So in that letter to Fatima Tabatabai, Imam Khomeini, he points to a dua that is known that Imam Khomeini himself, he would recite this dua in his qunut. And the dua is a part of the Munajat of Sha'ban. So Munajat of Sha'baniyya, where he says that, look, this in itself, because when we read this part of the Munajat of Sha'baniyya, it in itself is very, on one hand, practical when we understand what exactly is this munajat and what Imam Ali alayhi is saying to connect with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. On one hand, it gives us very practical advice that we should follow. And so that section of the Sha'baniyya, Munajat Sha'baniyya, that he writes to Fatima Tabatabai, himself, he would constantly recite, is Habli Ilahi, Habli Kamal al-Inqita'i ilayk, وأنير أبصار قلوبنا بضياء نظرها إليك حتى تخرق أبصار القلوب حجب النور وتصل إلى معدن عظمة وتسير أرواحنا معلقة بعز قدسك. Subhanallah. So he says, look, if you have the Quran, you understand that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he's giving you, he's saying that, look, this connection exists. He's created all of you with this connection, but you forgot. And then so he sent the prophets to remind you. He sent the Imma alayhim to remind you to how to connect. So on one side, you have this communication from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. On the other side, you're learning how to communicate with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And on both sides, you're giving practical advice. What does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala say? He says, yes, when we look at, what is at least one of our, at least in our own perception, of course, there are other hadith, but most people who are beginning this journey of spirituality and trying to perfect their spirituality, they look at the biggest obstacle is shaitan. Shaitan, he keeps doing this waswas. Allah gives you the key. He says, look, shaitan, he himself said that, he's gonna deviate everyone except for that ibadallah minhum mukhlasin. Then Allah says that, look, if you worship Allah, وَمَا أُمِرُوا إِلَّا لِيَعْبُدُوا اللَّهَ مُخْلِصِينَ لَهُ الدِّينَ. If you only worship Allah and you make your salat, you make your zakat, or whatever that worshiping entails, your khums, your zakat, your hajj, everything, your fast, and you do it مُخْلِصِينَ لَهُ الدِّينَ. You do it mukhlis, then that means what? Shaitan cannot touch you. He is no longer absolute. And again, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he emphasizes this as well in the Quran, that he says, Shaitan doesn't have any power over you. On Yawm al-Qiyamah, all the people who blame Shaitan, like, oh, Shaitan is going to say, Na'udhu billah, just don't blame me. He says, you did the action. I didn't do anything. This is what Shaitan is going to say. He's going to say, oh, no, I just suggested, but it was you who actually did it. So he says, don't make me a partner in your disobedience of Allah. And these are the words of the Quran. Shaitan says, he's going to say that, no, I believe in Allah. He's like, you disobeyed. So Allah gives us the key. In the dua of Sha'baniyya that Imam Khomeini, he gives us an example. This is just one example. But we take any hadith, any dua of Ahlul Bayt alayhim salatu wasalam, and we should actually practice this. Not simply just, oh, hey, I'm reading it. Oh, I have to read this. I'm supposed to have to read this at this time. I read it and mashallah, we finish with it. Read it, reflect upon it, and realize that these are the words of the Ahlul Bayt. And one of the kind of amazing things as well, that if you actually do a cross-reference, this is one of the amazing things, you can actually do a cross-reference between the du'as of Ahlul Bayt and the Quran. I see that, oh, where are these things matching up? Maybe we can see, oh, hey, there's a communication that is going across. Even in some of the du'as, you'll see that certain verses are actually of the Quran have actually been used. Dua Iftatah, for example. Certain verses you find directly from the Quran in this dua. But what does that mean? It means that the Imam is communicating, they're connecting. Says, oh Allah, you said this, and because you said this, so now I am doing this. You said to call upon you and request, and you won't answer. For example, this is another dua. Call upon us and you will answer. So, okay, I'm calling upon you. So answer. So you see that this is the connection. So anyway, let me just go over this verse, this dua quickly, this section. But you see that how it is pragmatic on one hand, because it is something that you should recite. So it's practical. It's not, oh, hey, I'm theorizing about getting close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. No, recitation itself is triggering you to get close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to begin to perfect your spirituality. And then the meaning itself is there for you to reflect upon and to act upon in order to get closest to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So in that dua, he teaches us, Ilahi habli kamalid in qita ilayk. Allah, give me the most perfect isolation with you. No. Give me a moment in which kamalid in qita, meaning that when I am connecting with you, Allah, nothing else matters. Nothing else matters. Just this connection I have with you, one of those connections that we hopefully made, should have made on the night of Qadr. You simply connect with whoever's around, whoever. It doesn't make a difference. That connection that you saw that Imam Ali he had every time he made salah, even to the point where it was difficult to take the arrow out of his leg while he was just sitting around waiting for Prophet. Wait till he makes salah. When he makes salah, then take the arrow off. He says, because he won't feel a thing. Because he's connected to Allah. Unfortunately, sometimes when we are in our salah, we still connected to, you make a salah and our phones start going out. And you see some people have to reach for the phone to cut it off. No. Come out in the qita. Says, Ya Allah, this is your time. This is your time. And nothing else matters. My phone is off. My mind of thinking about, oh, hey, I have to make this call, or oh, that person called, I gotta make this text. No. Come on. وَأَنِيرَ أَبْصَارَ قُلُوبِنَا بِضِيَاءِ نَظَرِهَا إِلَيْكَ. and enlighten the eyes of our hearts by seeing you, Ya Allah. بِالنَّظَرِ إِلَيْكَ. Of course, we don't see Allah, so the eyes of the heart. And what this means or can mean is that we don't see Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with the physical eye, but we understand Allah with the spiritual eye. In fact, in Nahj al-Balagha as well, you see one person who comes to Imam Ali and says, how do you worship a God you don't see? And Imam says, I don't. Because I see a God before me, behind me, on the side of me, on the right, on the left, above me, beneath me. So I see Allah everywhere. Everything is a sign of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But if our fitrah is skewed, then we don't see that. We don't see it. We don't recognize and we don't realize that every single thing. Even this microphone. It's a sign of Allah. Everything is the same. So in this dua, we're asking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, look, polish my heart and illuminate my heart to that extent that I actually realize this. That everything in this world, everything is a sign of you, Ya Allah. To the point, حتى تخرق أبصار القلوب وجدا الله. Until the point that the eyes of my heart is polished, in a sense perfected to the level, eyes of my heart, it rips open the veils of light. What are the veils of light? So I'll tell you this, you should have no misconception that, well, the veils of darkness are sins and disobedience of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But there's a point where a person, inshallah, we reach this point where, we no longer disobey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That we come out of the veils of darkness, of disobedience of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And if we reach that point beyond that veils of darkness, then we come into the veils of light. The Imam, when he mentions this to this we're talking about, right? This is when someone, we have some understanding of something, we have knowledge, we have these terminologies, but then you can get lost in this terminology. And that's why he tells her, he says, look, he's like, the best book of the Quran, all of these books, you read this and that, and you get all this terminology here and there, but then you're stuck in this world of just, oh, hey, I know this term. Oh, I know this concept. But none of it becomes practical. None of it actually is used in order to gain closeness to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So those are like the veils of light. There's a difference between knowing that, oh, you know what? Salat is wajib versus actually making the salat. Oh, okay. Khums zakat is wajib versus, oh, I'm actually paying the khums zakat. And not only actually paying it, but understanding the spiritual benefits of these things, of the salat, of the zakat, of the khums. If we simply get in, oh, yeah, I'm doing this because it's wajib. Okay, I've done it. Okay, yeah, gain closest. But how is it actually connecting you to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Is it done with sincerity and alhamdulillah, I'm giving it with sincerity. So let's reach that point where we are beyond the veils of darkness and we reach to those veils of light, but even those veils of light do not hold us back from connecting to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So we reach to this place of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's grandeur, so that reach to this station of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's divineness. So I just want to give one example of how sometimes our spirituality may be, or even our fitra may be skewed. But to see the fitra of man. So again, our fitra connected to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And when we look at some of the essential attributes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, usually when we learn our in school, what are those three essential attributes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or the attributes of essence? What are they? Anyone? Yeah, he's Rahman Rahim, but when we teach our aqayat, we say, oh, Allah has three essential attributes, or the attributes of essence. Then he has the attributes of action. Then he has the negative attributes. These certain attributes can't be attributed to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But what are those three attributes of essence in the sifat zatiyya that all the other sifats they go back to? Life, hayy. That Allah is hayy. And then he is qudra, qadir. It's hayy, he's living, he's powerful, and he is what? Alim. So these are, in theology, these are the three essential attributes. And all the other attributes, the attributes, sifat al-af'aliyya and sifat al-anfiyya, the negative attributes, the attributes that can't be attributed to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and they go back to these three essential attributes. But if you look at the fitrah of man, that we all, in some way, as the fitrah is, as we define the fitrah inclines towards what? Perfection. And these are the three areas that we look at that quite often we strive for perfection with regards to life. But when the fitrah is skewed, we think that, oh, we want to have perfection in this. Perfection in power. When the fitrah is skewed, then what do we see as power? Power that is only achieved in this world. Economic power, political power. We don't think about that. Is that power, that dignity that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives us in the hereafter? Life, perfection only in this life. And we often forget about the perfection in the next life. Perfection in knowledge and understanding. And what do we do? Oh, I have this. Oh, I have 3 PhDs. I have this. But what about our understanding of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? So now fitrah becomes, when we become neglectful of that true fitrah, then these 3 essential aspects about our own nature, which, yes, we seek perfection in life, have the best life. It only gets delimited to this world. Have the best life in this world. What about the akhirah? The person whose spirituality is imbalanced. That person seeks, as Allah says, what? In fact, even the Imams some may have seen it, that says that person who leaves his dunya only for the akhirah, they said, that's not from us. That person who leaves his akhirah for the dunya, says that person is not from us. That person who's from us, who seeks the best of this world and the next. But that takes a balance, and to understand that balance, that sometimes, yeah, maybe there's certain things in industries, if it's haram, it's not for us. But even sometimes those things which may be haram, we say, oh, Allah is directing us away from it. Then we're like, oh, this is what I want. It's halal. How come Allah's not giving it to you? He's directing us away from it. Why? Because it may not be good for us. But then what happens? We get depressed. We get anxious. What? I don't understand. Rather than realizing, yeah, I put every effort in getting this, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He has a different plan for me. I have to go do something else, which is halal. He has a different plan. He has a different direction for me. that only comes when our fitra is connected. That yes, staying away from the haram and going towards what is halal. But even in that, for some reason, I keep hammering away at it, and that's not working. But this other thing, which is halal, is very easy. What happened? We're in that hujub al-nur. We think that, oh, okay, this is halal. Oh, Allah, how come you're not giving it to me? Then I get depressed. It's like, no, love it. Rather than realize that, no, subhanAllah. Yeah, I made my every effort. Even I made dua. And ya Allah, if this is for me, let me know. And I'll continue. If it's not, then open the other door for me. And I can continue on my path. You get stuck in that. Likewise, power. Looking for power. But if that power, whether it's economic power, political power, power of some sort of position, it is not connected and grounded in what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants and connected with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then what happens? That power makes us arrogant. Or even God forbid, we become zalim. We become oppressive, tyrant. Knowledge is all. Oh, I know all of these things. But is there wisdom in it, as we mentioned the other day, that there's something that's connecting me to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala or not? So, in order to perfect that spirituality, we need balance, and beware of becoming imbalanced, which will lead us to spiritual bankruptcy. And that spiritual bankruptcy, as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He states in the Quran, He says that you find that there are some يدعون من دون الله ما لا يضره وما لا ينفعه ذلك هو الضلال البعيد. Some will call upon. There's several verses like this. Some of them say that some will call upon, some will worship. And what are they calling upon? What are they worshiping? What have they took as their objective in life? That which is other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not pleased with. That which, as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, has really no benefit for you. لا يضر, has no benefit or detriment. لا يضره ولا ينفعه. Meaning that, it's not going to bring you any benefit, nor will it harm you. In other words, if you left it, there's no harm. Actually, it's actually better for you. And you'll find that those people are in extreme error. Having wrong expectations as well. This in Surah Al-An'am, beautiful verse. هل ينظرون إلا أن تأتيهم الملائكة أو يأتي ربك أو يأتي بعض آيات ربك يوم يأتي بعض آيات ربك ولا ينفع نفسا إيمانهم لم تكن آمنت من قبل أو كسبت في إيمانها خيرا قل انتظروا إنا منتظرون. So do they consider that the angels will come to them? I said that this verse was built because the Mushrikeen, they had polytheists, they heard Christians and Jews were very Catholic. So they heard, oh wow. For example, the story of Musa, okay, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is speaking to him, speaking to him directly. For other prophets, the angels are coming. For example, the Prophet Isa, even a table of food came down for the people. And those, even the Jews with Hazrat Musa, so then the Mushrikeen, they started demanding of the Prophet, so, do these things for us. Let us hear the angel talk to us directly. Oh, send this table of food down for us, or let the food just appear before us. And when this happens, then we'll believe. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He revealed this verse. He's like, do they consider that, do they think that the angels will come to them, or Allah will come to them directly, or that some other sign will come to them directly? Do they think that this will happen? Was, no. Tell them to wait. And we will wait. In other words, sometimes we build wrong expectations. We build these wrong expectations. And then if those expectations we think are not good, Moses called them, I called them. Made all these du'as and Laylatul Qadr. I made it specifically for this. Allah, okay, Ramadan is over. But where's the thing I prayed for? And Allah, if I don't see it, then now my iman is going to get weak. That expectation is the wrong type. Again, if we truly learn from the Ahlul Bayt and the Prophet, as you see, it's one line. One line. It says that oh Allah, I prayed for something, but guess what? It didn't come right away. It came later. But what happened? I became upset. And in dua from Muslim, it says, and what happens to that person who has this trait? Is this then I become what? Abdul Jahid. This servant who's given to you only. Farhama Abdul Jahid, who acted in this way. Rather than understanding that, well, yes, whatever I prayed for came a little bit late because it was better to come late. Why? Because, Ya Allah, that you know Aqibatul Umur. You know that when is the best time for me to receive that thing which I'm praying for. Or you know that, well, hey, what I'm praying for is perhaps not even good for me, but something else is better for me. And he keeps trying to give it to you, but you're like, no, I want this. I want the iPad. Well, what's this going to do? Here's the Samsung tablet. Like, no, I want this iPad. Here's the Samsung tablet. That's what it's happening. And you keep rejecting the Samsung tablet and you don't get the iPad. Oh, what happened? I said, no, that iPad is not good for you. I was going to take you in a direction you shouldn't be going. Here's the Samsung tablet. But because of our wrong expectations, then we put ourselves in the bind versus connecting to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as we should and understanding that, hey, yes, that was going to be answered later, or hey, you know what, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He's giving me something. It's similar. Hey, I can do the same thing with Samsung tablet and I can do with the iPad. Different programs, different apps, or whatever, but essentially, the thing which I need to do, I can do it with either one. So, inshallah, as we bring this blessed month to a close, we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to truly enlighten our hearts and help us to gain balance in those 7 aspects of our life. First, in finding positive outlets to strengthen all the other aspects of our life. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to find balance in our security, our personal strength, which is connected to His strength, our love and our relationships, which are connected to His love and relationship, and the method of our expression in the wisdom and applying the knowledge that we learn from the Quran and the debate, and in our spirituality. الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله اللهم اغفر ذنوبنا واستر عيوبنا وقضي حوائجنا واشف مولانا ورحمنا مواتنا وعجل فرجنا من صاحب العصر والسلام وجعلنا من أعوان من سعيد المستشفين بين الله أخت محمد وآله التوفيق.
Just a quick announcement. I'd like to thank tonight's sponsors, Brother Muhibullah and his family. Please try Surah Fatiha for the following women: Sabdar Ali, Hasham, Gulshan, Hasham, all Marumi of Hasham and Meiji families, all Marumi of Anwar and Manik families, and all Marumi of Aladdin and Meiji Datu families. Yeah. For tomorrow, inshallah, if we have Eid tomorrow, we find out soon.